Smells Like Teen Spirit turned into the anthem for a generation that wanted to tear down convention. Kurt Cobain built his whole career on rejecting the rules. But when he died at 27, worth an estimated $50 million, he left behind a wife, an infant daughter, and no will at all. And what followed wasn't a quiet family arrangement. It was nearly 3 decades of lawsuits, frozen trust accounts, a custody battle, and a fight over his own name that didn't fully end until 2022.
Kurt Cobain grew up in Aberdeen, Washington, and formed Nirvana in 1987 with bassist Chris Novoselic. Their first album, Bleach, came out on an independent label in 1989 and barely made a ripple outside the Pacific Northwest. Then in 1991, everything changed overnight. Smells Like Teen Spirit became the song that defined a decade, and grunge exploded from a Seattle scene into the biggest sound in music. Nirvana followed Nevermind with In Utero in 1993, and by then Cobain was one of the most famous musicians on the planet, worth tens of millions of dollars from record sales, touring, and publishing alone. His face was suddenly everywhere. Magazine covers, MTV specials, year-end countdowns of the decade's biggest stars. He'd also married musician Courtney Love in 1992, and the two had a daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, that same year.
None of that fortune came with instructions for what to do with it. In April 1994, Cobain died by suicide at his home outside Seattle. He was 27, and he had never written a will. Because Washington is a community property state, his estate passed automatically to his wife and daughter under the law. Courtney Love got the lion's share, and Frances Bean, not yet 2 years old, had the rest locked into a trust. On paper, that sounds tidy. In practice, it was the opening move in a fight that would run for years.
With no will naming an executor, Love became the one in charge of Cobain's estate, his songwriting royalties, his rights, his image, and likeness. A trust for Frances was created in 1997 to shield her inheritance from creditors and future spouses, but Love kept control of it. Within a few years, Love had partnered with surviving Nirvana members Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic to manage the band's business, a partnership that collapsed into its own lawsuits over royalties and song rights. Meanwhile, millions of dollars tied to Cobain's estate went missing or unaccounted for, and the people responsible for managing it couldn't agree on who was actually in charge.
By 2009, things had fallen apart badly enough that a Seattle wealth management firm went to court to freeze Love out of Frances's trust after money went missing. That same year, 17-year-old Frances took out a restraining order against her own mother, and Love lost custody. She was placed with her grandmother and her aunt instead, though they still had no control over the money itself. Love has said the legal fighting alone cost her $27 million. She sold her stake in Nirvana's for $50 million in 2006, and in 2009 gave up her rights to Cobain's name and image entirely in exchange for a loan from her own daughter's trust.
Frances Bean Cobain turned 18 in August 2010 and inherited 37% of her father's estate outright, along with access to her trust. She turned 30 in 2022 and gained full control of everything that remained. Along the way, Love was even sued for libel over a tweet accusing her former lawyers of mishandling the trust, a case that went all the way to a jury trial before Love won it in 2014. Today, Frances controls 100% of her father's publicity rights, a resolution 28 years in the making.
None of this happened because the law couldn't find Cobain's rightful heirs. It found them exactly as written: his wife, his daughter. The problem was that finding the right people on paper didn't tell anyone how the money should be run, who was really in charge day to day, or what Cobain himself would have wanted for a daughter he barely got to know before he died. It's easy to assume that if something happens to you, the people closest to you will just take over. And legally, that's often true. But the law deciding who inherits your money is a completely different thing from you deciding how it gets managed and who is in charge if the people you love don't agree with each other. A will doesn't just name who inherits. It names who's in charge and gives them real instructions instead of leaving them to guess. I'm Amy. Please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.